It wasn't lipstick. It wasn't a text message. It wasn't even another man being careless. It was a car seat, 3 inches too far back. That was all. 3 inches. And somehow, that was enough to destroy my marriage. People think betrayal gets exposed through dramatic mistakes. Phones left unlocked, receipts forgotten, someone walking in at the wrong time. But sometimes it's smaller than that. Smaller and crueler. Sometimes it's a detail only the person who knows you best would ever notice. And Daniel noticed everything, especially things out of place. Especially me. That was why lying to him was always doomed. I just didn't understand it yet. It started on a Tuesday. Warm, bright, ordinary. The kind of day betrayal loves because it hides in normalcy. Daniel was supposed to be out of town overnight for work. At least that was the plan. And I built my mistake around that plan. Ryan and I drove out to the coast that afternoon. That was our pattern. Not hotels, not obvious places. Drives, long stretches of road where we could pretend whatever this was existed outside consequence. We parked near the water, talked, touched, stayed too long. Then I drove him back. And before he got out, he adjusted the passenger seat. Ryan was taller than Daniel, long legs. He pushed it way back. I noticed. And then forgot. That word again. Forgot. The word behind half of disasters. By the time I got home, I was thinking about dinner. About Daniel not being home. About nothing dangerous. And I never moved the seat back. Not once did it cross my mind. Then at 7:15, I heard Daniel's truck. Early. Far too early. And that cold panic hit. The kind that starts in your stomach. I opened the door before he came in, trying to act natural, trying to hide how startled I was. Storm canceled the overnight, he said. He was exhausted, wanted food, a shower, sleep, and I started believing I was safe. Again, that fatal relief. Dinner was normal, too normal. I remember almost relaxing, almost. Then Daniel asked for something from the car, his charger, passenger side. And a pulse of dread shot through me so sharp I nearly dropped a fork. The seat. I had forgotten the seat. I stood in the kitchen listening to the car door open, listening like sound itself could warn me. Then he came back inside, holding the charger, looking puzzled. Not angry, just thinking. And I knew. He set the charger down, asked casually, "Why is the passenger seat moved?" Simple question. Terrible question. The kind ordinary marriages survive. The kind lying marriages do not. I laughed. Reflex. Said maybe I moved it cleaning. Weak. Daniel tilted his head. You never touched that seat. He was right. I never did. And already I was explaining behavior that didn't exist. Bad sign. It's pushed way back. Pause. Someone tall sit there? My blood went cold, because he said it lightly. But there was weight under it, and Daniel rarely asked things he hadn't partly thought through. No, I said. Too quick. He noticed. Of course he noticed. Then he asked, "Then why is there sand on the floor mat?" And suddenly the room tilted. Sand. Beach sand. I hadn't seen it. He had. And just like that, the passenger seat wasn't the only clue. There were two. And details multiply faster than lies. I said I must have tracked it in. He stared, thinking. That awful, silent thinking. Then, did someone ride in my seat today? Not your car. My seat. Even now that wording hurts, because ownership was already part of the wound. I lied again. And I think that was the moment I lost whatever chance truth might have had. Because he saw the lie. Not proved. Saw. And trust began collapsing in real time. Then he walked back outside. I followed. Heart pounding. He leaned into the car, pulled something from the door pocket. A parking ticket stub. Coastal overlook. Time stamped that afternoon. Ryan must have shoved it there. Forgotten. Forgotten ruins lives. Daniel looked at the stub, then me, and asked quietly, "Tell me before I make myself find the rest." And something in me broke, because there was no oxygen left in the lie. I confessed. Fragments at first, then more. Ryan, months, the drives, the affair. Words I never thought I'd hear myself say aloud. Daniel said almost nothing, just listened, which was somehow unbearable. Silence can feel like judgment. Then he asked, "You took him in my car?" And I knew somehow that detail hurt him more than the sex, because betrayal inside shared spaces feels territorial, personal, like vandalism. I nodded, and watched something leave his face, something final. He laughed once, bitter, broken. "I found out because of a car seat." And the absurdity of it made me cry. 3 inches of upholstery. That was all it took. That night he packed a bag. No screaming, no thrown dishes. Just the quiet efficiency of someone emotionally leaving before physically leaving. At the door he said, "You know what kills me? You didn't even bother moving the seat back." And that sentence gutted me. Because what he heard wasn't forgetfulness. It was carelessness. And carelessness wounds pride. Ryan texted later. "Everything okay?" I blocked him, because suddenly the affair looked embarrassingly small next to what it cost. Cheap, ordinary, not worth ruins. Daniel didn't rage after, which almost hurt more. He moved with certainty. Separation, lawyer, paperwork. Like grief had already hardened. I begged for counseling, for repair, for anything. He asked one question. "If I hadn't noticed the seat, would you still be lying?" I couldn't answer. Because yes, and we both knew it. That was the real ending, not the confession. That question. Months later, I drove alone and realized I was adjusting the passenger seat before getting out. Automatically, as if some scar had turned ritual. And I started crying in a grocery parking lot. Over a seat lever. Because grief brands absurd things. Even now when I get in a car, I notice seat position first. Always. Some people see upholstery. I see collapse. People think relationships explode dramatically. Sometimes they fracture because the wrong person sat where they shouldn't. Left sand on a floor mat. A ticket stub in a door pocket. Moved a seat 3 inches too far back. Tiny forensic clues of ordinary life. And what haunts me most is how close I came. If Daniel hadn't needed his charger, if I'd moved the seat, if Ryan took the ticket stub, maybe the lie lives longer, maybe everything delays, but maybe truth was always looking for some crack. And that was the one it chose. Because he didn't catch me in bed, didn't read messages, didn't hire a detective. He touched a seat track, noticed 3 inches, and asked one simple question. "Why is the passenger seat moved?" And from that moment, everything unraveled.